We're just so gonna be linked for life.
After Brandon and Teresa Davis were known for adopting Catelynn and Tyler's biological daughter Carly on Teen Mom,
We just want you to know that you will always be in our hearts.
but out of nowhere, they disappeared both from Catelynn and Tyler's lives and from Teen Mom. So what happened to them? Why did they disappear? And what are their lives like now? On Catelynn and Tyler's episode of 16 and Pregnant, we saw their difficult decision when it came to placing their daughter up for adoption. One aspect was really important to them while deciding on a potential couple, and it was pretty interesting. Catelynn and Tyler knew they wanted to find adoptive parents who didn't already have their own biological children. At the time, Brandon and Teresa didn't have any kids, biological or adopted, but after they adopted Carly, the couple made an incredible decision. In May 2012, Carly officially became a big sister. Brandon and Teresa decided to adopt another newborn, but this time they added a son to their family. Just like the adoption process with Carly, Teresa and Brandon were at the hospital when the birth mother had the baby boy. But according to Ashley's reality roundup, someone else was also there to help everything go smoothly. I can't lie, this was honestly so unexpected. It turns out that Catelynn was actually in the delivery room when the baby was born. The main reason she was there was to provide support for the birth mother. But I'm sure that the opportunity to meet Carly's little brother was an added benefit. But what happened shortly after that was so insane. A few months after Brandon and Teresa adopted their son, he was revealed to the public in a very surprising way. Bethany Christian Services, the agency that they had used for both of their adoptions, had created a magazine called Lifelines. And the photo on the front of the magazine's fall issue was absolutely shocking. Believe it or not, Brandon and Teresa and both of their children were featured on the cover of Lifelines. They were also interviewed by the magazine, which is how they publicly announced that they had named their baby boy Graham. But Teresa and Brandon also made a few comments that still seem so bizarre. The couple mentioned that both of their children's adoptions were open. Teresa added that Carly's adoption being so public due to the spotlight from Teen Mom had been super challenging, but Brandon claimed that he and Teresa were grateful that they had been able to be a part of the show. He even said that they were happy to be included in Catelynn and Tyler's story because it raised awareness about adoption and also possibly saved lives. Teresa's opinion wasn't much of a surprise at all. She always talked about not wanting their family's personal lives to be in the public eye, but Brandon's claims came as quite as a shock considering how drastically things changed for the family after the interview. Not long after Brandon and Teresa and their kids graced the cover of Lifelines magazine, they started decreasing their communication with Catelynn and Tyler. That clearly wasn't easy for Catelynn and Tyler to accept, but there really wasn't much they could do about it. It is pretty crazy that they went from being openly in the public eye to wanting nothing to do with the show or having their kids in the spotlight in just a couple of months. Despite how frustrating the adoption was for Catelynn and Tyler at times, they had ultimately been responsible for selecting Carly's adoptive parents. At the time, one of the main reasons why they had chosen Brandon and Teresa was because of their jobs, which were pretty impressive. Catelynn and Tyler liked that Teresa would be able to be a stay-at-home mom for part of the year since school wasn't in session during the summer. They also liked that Brandon worked as a financial planner because his income meant he could afford to care for the baby. But in the 14 years since Brandon and Teresa adopted Carly, both of their employment situations have changed. Brandon's career path in particular has taken some extremely fascinating turns. Over the years, Brandon has been employed with multiple different businesses and organizations. In 2009, he had been working as a planner or wealth advisor for a financial company for several years, but after that, he clearly made a remarkable progress. According to Brandon's LinkedIn profile, he eventually became the vice president of that same company. He worked with them for over 13 years before he made another big leap in his career. In 2017, Brandon started working at the Carolinas branch of the National Christian Foundation. For a little over 4 years, his role at the foundation was the executive operations director, but 2 years ago, he transferred to an extraordinary new position. In 2021, Brandon took over as president of the foundation, which is currently his main job. The organization works with donors and advisors to help provide grants to over 63,000 churches and charities, so Brandon's role as president must be intense at times. Apparently, Brandon also travels occasionally to speak at events about finances and smart investing choices. But working at the foundation isn't the only responsibility he has outside the home. What he does part-time is honestly unbelievable. Brandon is also a deacon at the local church where he first met Teresa over 20 years ago. Most of the time, deacons aren't paid, but they usually help with the service, and sometimes they also help manage the church's funds and donations. Teresa is also involved with the church, although her role is very different. The church's orchestra sometimes performs live music and she plays the violin, but in her professional life, she's made changes over the years that are seriously incredible. After adopting Carly, Teresa was obviously more committed to being a stay-at-home mom than Catelynn and Tyler had initially thought. In 2009, she left her job as an assistant director of development at a private Christian Christian school. What she did next was truly amazing. Teresa stayed home with Carly and Graham until September 2016. According to her employment history on the Signal Hire website, that's when she started working at a different private Christian school. And similar to Brandon, she's been working her way up the ladder ever since. At first, Teresa had a minor position in the school's development department, but at around the same time that Brandon was offered the role of president of the foundation, Teresa was also given an incredible promotion. In 2021, Teresa became the assistant development director at the school. Her responsibilities include planning fundraisers, organizing events, and reaching out to potential donors. Teresa is currently still employed at the school, which means she can spend her summers at home with the children. Speaking of the kids, Carly is now 14 years old while Graham is 11. It's hard to believe that so much time has passed since we first saw Brandon and Teresa on 16 and Pregnant, but there is one thing that hasn't changed at all since then, and it's actually really meaningful. Catelynn and Tyler knew that they wouldn't be able to raise a baby when they were teenagers for many reasons. Neither of them had much stability in their lives, and Catelynn didn't want Carly to go through those same struggles. One of Catelyn's biggest hopes for Carly was that she wouldn't have to constantly change living situations. It looks like Catelyn's wish came true after all, because Brandon and Teresa still reside in Charlotte, North Carolina. Surprisingly, they even live in the same house that they did back when they first adopted Carly. There isn't a whole lot of other public information about Brandon and Teresa available, but overall it seems like they've been able to provide their kids with plenty of support and stability. They're also still in touch with Catelynn and Tyler, at least somewhat regularly. Brandon and Teresa may not be able to guarantee consistent visits with Carly, but they were able to arrange a visit with Catelynn, Tyler, and their daughters a few months ago. It's awesome that Carly has been growing up with her brother, but thankfully Brandon and Teresa have also made sure that she's able to communicate sometimes with her biological sisters. Brandon and Teresa's hobbies and careers may have changed over the last several years, but their commitment to providing stable, well-rounded lives for their children seems to have stayed the same. Anyway, now that we've talked about what Teresa and Brandon have been up to since we last heard from them, I'm curious, what do you guys think about the changes in their careers since they adopted Carly in 2009? Are you surprised by what they publicly revealed in Lifeline's magazine and that they had their family photo featured on the cover? Let me know in the comments below.